President Buhari in Jamena charged 6 measures to boost capacity for multinational joint task force.
ECOWAS Parliamentary Committee considers ways of curbing double tariffs in sub-regions' borders.
Don't give the impression of any support to any political candidate, federal government urges foreign countries.
If we have the facts, then we're able to make an informed judgment. Is it true the police is this, or is it true the police is that?
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the 2019 campaign document of the Young Progressive Party, plus the burden of HIV and AIDS infections.
Now it's the 4th day into our series of discussion on the 2019 campaign documents of various political parties participating in the forthcoming general elections.
That's right, Rhoda. Now we started off with the ruling APC's next level document to the main opposition PDP's Let's Get Nigeria Working Again, and the SDP's Getting the Basics Right document followed with their core messages. We still have more coming. And Good Morning Nigeria. You're
absolutely right, Kingsley. And I'm sure that, of course, the electorates are anxiously waiting for all the political parties that will be playing in these forthcoming elections. We're talking about 91 political parties.
That's right, but incidentally, not all of them will be fitting candidates for all the positions, particularly the presidential election. We have seen at least 1 or 2 political parties adopt the incumbent. But certainly, the number of political parties you have mentioned isn't a few count, by the way. And interestingly, some of the newer parties have young persons who are driving the ideals of what could shape the political landscape next year.
And of course, one of such newly registered political parties we're talking about is the Young Progressives Party. It says it is set with its ambitious plan for Nigeria. And you wonder, what could that be?
All right, that's a very pertinent question to ask, and whether in fact the plans of the newer political parties are in tune with the critical issues confronting the country, or better still, just how articulate they are with their vision for the Nigerians that they hope to represent and indeed serve.
These are pertinent questions to ask these political gladiators as they brace up for the 2019 elections. The ring is gradually getting set for all the actors to, of course, test their political might. And let's get them to reenact their manifestos here on the program. That's what we've been doing since Monday in our theatre, and that's the theatre of Good Morning Nigeria.
Absolutely. Now, Rhoda, talking about theatre, it's another film season fiesta for the practitioners. Now, the Zuma Film Festival is rolling out something different.
And I'm certain some film buffs would want to know what creativity is in, of course, what's it, of course, in upping the ante in terms of audiovisual medium this year.
All right, but let's also get your attention further this moment. And do you know your status?
When you say do you know your status, because everybody, the first thing that comes to mind is HIV/AIDS.
Not necessarily. I mean,
for some people, the first one, when you say, do you know your status?
Yeah, it could be a marriage. Yeah, it could be a marital status. That's right. But again, I pop the question, do you know your status? And know your status, that is the theme of the World AIDS Day 2018. You get to hear some more about the annual HIV awareness campaign on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. And that's, of course, as the world will mark the 30th anniversary of the World's AIDS Day on Saturday, December the 1st. It's a loaded edition of the program, and it's on that note I would like to welcome you to the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest, and we're right here at the Abuja headquarters studios. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Rhoda Anona. I join Kingsley in welcoming you to this edition of the program. And I tell you, it promises to be exciting. Just as we have said, it's a 3-part discussion this morning. We're looking at the Zuma Film Festival, the HIV/AIDS 30th anniversary, and we're looking at the Young Progressives Party. We promise you it's a bumper package, of course, one for the weekend. We'll also bring to you a regular companion segment, and that includes a newspaper review. We have business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But as always, you know, the news comes first, and we have Anjibuno, who's in the newsroom this morning, to update us. And what's up? What's happening?
Hello, Rhoda. It's good to see you also. And Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the day's news. President Muhammadu Buhari was in N'Djamena, Chad, to chair a consultation of heads of state and government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. The one-day meeting reviewed the security situation in the areas affected by Boko Haram insurgency and espoused measures to enhance the capacity of the multinational joint task force to meet the challenges of securing the area.
Heads of state and government also expressed deep concern with regards to the upsurge of attacks against the various countries and expressed the crucial need to change their modus operandi in the fight against Boko Haram. In this regard, the leaders took a number of decisions which included operational cooperation. In this context, they appealed to the international community to support their efforts in the fight against terrorism in the region and in the stabilization and sustainable development of the sub-region.
The Nigeria Joint Commission for Cooperation held a roundtable in technical and financial partners towards implementing some of the projects that will improve the lives of the citizens around the Nigeria-Niger border. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Khadija Bukar Ibrahim, who declared the meeting open, asked for deeper collaboration in achieving the goals of the Commission.
We are pleading with the donor agencies, development partners, and also the financial experts. See what you can do to move the Commission much further than where it is today.
In the meantime, the ECOWAS Parliament Committee is considering possible ways of eliminating double taxation and exorbitant tariffs along the borders. This is in view of the challenges associated with the ECOWAS free movement of goods and persons in the sub-region. This is undergoing consideration at the second ordinary session of the Parliament in Abuja.
The issue of free movement of persons, we have played lip service to it. We've been moving around, we find the difficulties, the challenges crossing the borders, even as human beings, not to talk of goods and services.
The House of Representatives has passed at second reading a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Commission. The passage of the bill is in line with government's efforts to make the sector more vibrant.
The bill, Mr. Speaker, creates opportunities for local and foreign investors and establishes a regulatory framework for the Nigerian mining industry.
Especially against the backdrop of the gospel of diversification of Nigerian economy away from oil.
Now, the federal government has called on foreign countries to exercise restraint in dealing with its citizens so as not to create the impression that it is favorably disposed to a particular candidate ahead of the 2019 election. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, stated this during an interaction with the media in Abuja.
The issue of Atiku Abubakar and the grant of the effort to secure a visa to visit the U.S. I must say that we're not at all in any panic at all. It is the prerogative of any of the U.S. in particular to grant a visa to anybody who applies and who deserves the visa. But we want to warn the U.S. government not to give the impression that it's endorsing one particular candidate over the other, and that is what is going to happen.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Rhoda and Kingsley after this break. Thanks for watching.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
60K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
I am Barrister Bola Kale Yusuf, the Baale of Bodesadu. I like to use this opportunity to thank the federal government, especially apart from all other novel programs that has reached the grassroots people. I want to thank them for the National Household Cash Transfer Scheme. For the first time, probably in the political history of Nigeria, it has never happened that people who are in hamlet, I'm talking about Manda, Salanga, Lasaki, Ajegunle, Ajia, Elemere, all these are inner villages that ordinarily government policy don't ever get to them, not to talk of a direct intervention in their financial well-being. I commend this project and I wish that it goes on because it is touching the people that actually need government attention.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
To anyone who ever pushed me to go further.
Come on, one more.
To anyone who ever gave me a hand up. To anyone who ever taught me anything I ever learned. To those who work together to set the bar higher. To those who give me the energy to go further. This is my team, and my team makes me.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. And we're live on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. Now, let's update you in the world of business as Nigerians record a leap on 2018 Ligatom Prosperity Index. Let's now join our business news correspondent, Joy Uzo, who would update us on these and other stories trending in the world of business.
Welcome to Business News. We'll start on a cheery note. Nigeria recorded a leap on the 2018 Legatum Prosperity Index of most prosperous countries in the world. At 129, the most populous black nation moved up by 3 points from its 132nd position in 2017. Since the inception of the index in 2016, this is the first time that Nigeria would move up. The LPI is an annual ranking developed by the Legatum Institute, a division of the United Arab Emirates-based private investment firm, Legatum. The index measures prosperity using 9 pillars: economic quality, business environment, governance, personal freedom, social capital, safety and security, education, health, and natural environment. Access to finance is still seen as a major challenge for small-scale farmers in the country. This was at an event on attracting public financing in sustainable agriculture for youth and women small-scale farmers, held recently in Abuja. Convener and founder of the Youth Farm Project, Nkiruka Naimeka, said the Nigerian government committed to the 2014 Malabo principles of ensuring increased public funding to at least 10% of national budget in the agricultural sector. Unfortunately, this commitment has not been achieved and therefore affects productivity of small-scale farmers. Thus, the essence of the colloquium, which provides a unique platform for stakeholders in agriculture to brainstorm on innovative models and approaches for attracting public financing in sustainable agriculture for youths and women small-scale farmers, which will help reposition them and increase the quality of their participation in the nation's agricultural sector.
Right now, Nigeria has less than 3% or thereabouts of that dedicated to agriculture, and so it's a far cry from the 10%. If you want to score it, you know the statistics. So for us, it's really affecting what the small-scale farmers are doing, because when you don't have that amount of public funding coming into the sector, you see that the little that is available is not being managed for a lot of things.
Meanwhile, another clog in the wheel of progress for these small-scale farmers is the certification fee allegedly charged by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, when they go to get their products registered. Reacting, NAFDAC representative Aisha Guinea explained that without NAFDAC certification, MSMEs cannot get market authorization to sell their products. She added that the agency had given a discount on the registration under the federal government's Ease of Doing Business initiative.
The agency gave a 50% discount, and the registration tariff for these MSMEs now is 21,000. This 21,000 includes inspection fee per product.
In as much as these beneficiaries appreciate the effort of the federal government through the Ease of Doing Business initiative, they called for a downward review of the NAFDAC registration fee, similar to what is obtainable under the Corporate Affairs Commission, where individuals pay as low as 5,500 naira to register their business. And the equities market closed Thursday on a negative note as the NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 1.33% to close at 30,611.55 basis points as against 0.48% depreciation recorded previously. That's Business News. Many thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo.
All right, thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us now, we will be taking a look at the stories in some of today's newspapers. All right, newspaper reviewer Bayo Toyebi, we're expecting him to join us in the course of a review, but just in case it doesn't, we'll just go ahead and take a look at the stories that we have. Rhoda, let's begin with you.
All right, so let's begin with the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, just below the nameplate, it says fresh setback for APC, peace moves in Zamfara, Ogun, Imo as replacement of candidates, and that's a story below the nameplate. Now, the lead story Boko Haram, Nigeria, Chad, and others to change strategy. And of course, you can see the picture stories there. It's that of the President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday, who arrived in N'Djamena, Chad, for discussions with heads of states, of governments of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and of course others who will be joining them on that. It's just a one-day summit, and that was yesterday. Yeah,
that's right.
And,
very significant summit on the heels, of course, what have been the frequent attacks by hit-and-run Boko Haram terrorists, particularly on the fringes of the Nigerian border and also around the Lake Chad area. So, of course, you recall that the president himself was in Maiduguri to declare open the Chief of Army Staff conference. And then, of course, from the next day, of course, he had to be, which was yesterday, he had to return to N'Djamena from Abuja. And they had the various leaders of the Lake Chad Commission who were present.
To know that, you know, reviewing, they're actually looking at reviewing the strategies, because I think there was a report this week saying that, look, these guys are, you know, more or less using drones and using all sorts of ammunitions now. So it's quite good to note that, you know, the president is there and we're reviewing the techniques or the way that the fight against Boko Haram is actually going to continue.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Rhoda. And I think that the security analysts themselves will probably be the first to point out that the fact that the terrorists appear to be having easy passage from the territories of some of our neighboring countries to now hit and run or hit and overrun some of Nigeria's military formations will give credence to the fact that perhaps, you know, something isn't quite adding up in terms of the efforts of some of our neighbors to help stem the overflow of the Boko Haram terrorists. And it's a very worrisome development also that the terrorists are said now to be launching drones to monitor the positions of the Nigerian troops. That where are the drones being launched from? I mean, they have to take off from somewhere, and then they have to also return to some other location. But this multinational joint task force, as well as the cooperation around the Lake Chad Commission, will be particularly useful in helping to rejig the operations against Boko Haram. All right, we still have that story on the Daily Independent front page as its lead. It says Boko Haram attacks, and that's the kicker. We need help, Buhari tells regional leaders. And with a rider, U.S. government places order for Nigeria's Tucano aircraft. That's what we've just been discussing with regard to President Muhammadu Buhari's call on the other regional leaders to help roll back the advances of Boko Haram elements, especially also, Rhoda, as it's been indicated that there could be foreign mercenaries who are pouring in from the Islamic State of West Africa.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. That's something that we've always known, that look, this thing is not just within us, it's something that there are foreign machineries being hired to actually carry out some of these heinous acts. But another story that's trending this morning is the lead story that's on the Punch, and it says PDP kicks as federal government cautions US against granting Atiku visa now. PDP kicks as federal government cautions U.S. against granting Atiku visa now. With a writer there said, we want the U.S. to be neutral and wary of taking any decision that will give the impression that they are favoring or endorsing one candidate over another. And that's a statement credited to the Honorable Minister of Information. Well, it was on the news this morning, and it's been on the news since last night. I don't know, this headline is kind of quite different from what would I say the kicker, of course, it's quite right, but the headline it's quite different from what the Honourable Minister was saying. It's not the federal government is not kicking against it, but then the impression that it is giving, you know, and of course the US is expected to be neutral in all of this.
Well, the Daily Independent also has a headline on that. It's the second list story of the paper, right at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Independent. And it says, don't grant Atiku visa, federal government tells the U.S. That's at the bottom of the Daily Independent, not at the top. You can go right there. You see the headline with two riders. It says giving him a visa means endorsing his presidential candidacy. And nations won't seek federal government's opinion to give out visas. That's according to Atiku, a former vice president who is also the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. As you said, I mean, it's a story that's been in the news. I'm sure Nigerians are going to have to respond to this going forward in terms of motive and in terms of the propriety of what's going on. And also the call for neutrality of various powers. But we saw what happened in 2015 during the presidential election. So that's the headline there. That's the second lead story from the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper.
And just to indicate also too now that Bayo has just joined us, our regular newspaper reviewer who was always here to, of course, give us more insight and depth into our review this morning is already here. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, brother. Good morning.
You had some challenges getting to the
traffic,
studio this morning.
Thank you. I apologize.
All right, so Bayo, we've talked about two issues now just before you came in, and one of them is the lead story for the Daily Trust, and that's on the president's visit, the one-day meeting in N'Djamena, Chad, and of course changing strategy towards the fight against Boko Haram. And the second one is PDP kicks as federal government cautions US against granting Atiku visa. That's the lead story for the Punch. Let's get your take on this too.
Yes. With the visit to the president to N'Djamena, particularly as chairman of the Lake Chad Basin, he drew their attention to two critical issues. That the insurgents have upped their actions. The latest development is that they are mining many of the areas, and secondly, they have resorted to using drones as a matter of surveillance, which is high-tech introduction into their activities, and therefore he drew the attention of the Lake Chad Basin heads of state to the development. And he, however, also emphasized that there was need for all of them to join efforts to ensure that terrorism is kicked out of the region. But all of them are on the same page. In fact, President of Chad was there, that of Niger. Cameroon was represented by its Prime Minister. And they are all resolved that terrorism must be stemmed out of the region. The issue of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party has been on for a long time, whether or not he can get to the United States or he can get a visa. And so with 2019 coming up, elections coming up, certainly it will become a matter of political discourse. And that is why everybody is coming to the forefront now, whether or not he can visit the US, whether or not he has said that he has not been granted the visa. He is granted visa, he will go to the US.
Well, Bayo, you know, that's the point you just talked about, the multinational joint task force, of course, through the instrumentality of the Lake Chad Basin Commission and what efforts have been made. Rhoda and I were discussing just before you came that it's significant that Boko Haram terrorists are now said to be launching drones for surveillance purposes. And the question is, the drones are taken out from somewhere and then return it somewhere. So where are those locations? And I think that's a significant point for some of our neighbors, you know, to take up.
Yes, even the recent attack at Melete, indications are that because the Chadian troops had withdrawn their own contribution to the multinational joint task force, and also the border that had been closed before had been left open, and that was why our soldiers were taken by surprise. But with this meeting, they will be able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, apparently plugging all the loopholes, and I think it will completely reinvigorate the multinational joint task force to take up the challenge of that. The terrorism is graduating now. If we are not careful, they will expand their activities. Don't forget that they are now calling themselves Islamic State in West Africa. And they have another insurgent group in Mali, which is being tackled there now. Their intention is to expand across the West Africa sub-region, and that can be very, very dangerous.
Absolutely. All right, Bayo, the issue of the visa or no visa, that's a matter that you said will always be on the cards. But just one point to also note. I'm sure you look from time to time, regional blocs and powerful countries impose sanctions on some officials of some countries. That's EU, for instance, or the US will say, look, we are imposing sanctions, your officials cannot travel, and so on and so forth. But when such sanctions are imposed, there is always a window for specific functions attendance by, again, specific individuals. I'll give you an example, for instance, with Robert Mugabe.
Yes, for
when
Zimbabwe.
he was president of Zimbabwe and sanctions were imposed on him, the much he could do if he needed to attend any function was that he would be restricted to a particular radius. And after that, of course, he gets to leave. But as you said, it's a political issue, and we'll see how it unfolds. But in terms of freedom of movement and so on and so forth. Now, let's return to the Daily Independent newspaper. Above the nameplate of the paper, Presidency rebuffs extension of Inspector General of Police Idris's tenure and shops for replacement. It says, barring any last-minute change, there are strong indications that the tenure of Ibrahim Idris as Inspector General of Police, which is expected to lapse statutorily on the 15th of January 2019, will not be extended. That's according to the Daily Independent. And court fixes February 25th for suit seeking actualization of Biafra. Details can be found on page 41. And let me take other stories read out from the front page of Daily Independent. APC, PDP lose more reps to smaller parties, and Ogun lawmakers loyal to Amosun dump APC. Domestic passengers stranded over inadequate aircraft, and Air Peace promises to rescue travelers. Drama as two speakers struggle to preside over Anambra Assembly. Details on page 41.
All right, other stories trending on the Punch this morning. Kano federal lawmakers back Ganduje despite bribery allegation. That's a story that's trending on page 10. Reps probe Pencom bus over alleged illegal appointments and payment increase. That's on page 9 of the Punch. And let's go to the foot of the paper. The foot of the paper, it says there, 3 days to deadline for submission of candidates. Names, defection hits APC. That's on page 9. Man caught attempting to sell human eyeball for 250,000 naira in Niger State. And finally, it says, court can't compel us to prosecute Fani Kade Abaribe, others for Kano's escape, says DSS DG. Right, those are the stories that are trending. Almost the same stories you have on the Daily Trust. Bayo, let's just get your final thoughts on some of these issues. And, of course, if there are other stories trending.
Yes, the concern now is the National Peace Committee yesterday says that they will be registering all political parties to commit to peace in the 2019 general elections. And so they will be signing such an agreement on December 11. So all the 91 registered political parties, and particularly the 68 contesting one, will all be appending pen and pen. And emphasis is that the peace accord, which was signed in 2015, worked, and therefore it is expected that the same will be used for 2019. And tomorrow, the Super Falcons are built for history. They are to take on Bayana girls for the final of the African Women African Championship. Don't forget that their first match in this qualifying series was against Bayana, which they lost 1-0. However, our Falcons have been 8-time champions, and they are striving to be the 9th champion. Guess what? The chairman of the Nigerian Football Federation has given an impetus. He has upped the reward of $5,000 to each player to $10,000. So, guess what? The Super Falcons will be going all what?
Is it per goal or for victory? If it's per goal, so that we'll join them in scoring the goals.
$10,000 per player if they win.
That's right.
That is good motivation. But the hearts of all Nigerians are with them. And don't forget, the Super Falcons, when they play, I am at peace watching them than when the Super Eagles play.
No, but you know when the Super Eagles play, a lot is at stake. So it makes your hearts, beat.
Bayo, let's take the editorial this morning. It's coming from the Punch newspaper, and it's at page 20. Nigeria's energy trilemma, self-inflicted. You always hear of dilemma. This is trilemma, of course, talking about the difficult choices to make from three options. It says, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources articulated the obvious recently when he bemoaned Nigeria's energy paradox. He highlighted the challenges of an economy that exports raw materials but imports the processed product and is desperately short of power for commerce and social activities. The paper continues that the energy trilemma is typical and easy to reverse. Transparently sell off the refineries immediately as they are established, as they are to establish global players, and also review the power sector privatization of 2013 and privatize the national power grid, give incentives to investors and reform the gas sector?
Well, the elements of the trilemma are not far-fetched. First of all, it was a public-run entity. Then it was believed that if it was privatized, it would function in a better atmosphere. Now, we are having challenges since the privatization came on. And therefore, there have been even calls that we should reverse the privatization. But the critical point is that the physical infrastructure are there, but the challenges are that sometimes, even when the power has been generated, the ability to convey them, to transmit them to the consumers is also a challenge. And this is why the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is actually up saying that there have been initiatives at several levels to increase the power contribution to the national grid between now and 2019.
All right, thank you very much, Bayo, for your time and your, of course, insight on our review this morning.
Thank you.
Wish we had you longer than you came in. But sure, hope you have a great weekend.
Yes, I'll watch the Super Falcons.
Okay, we will watch the Super Falcons. Of course, we wish them victory in this tournament. And we'll see you again on Monday morning.
See you on Monday then.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the NTA, and earlier on we indicated that we'll be having a three-part discussion. But first is a continuation of our discussion from Tuesday, where we've had some major political, gladiators, political parties, of course, giving us their manifesto and what they have for the forthcoming election. On Tuesday, we had the APC. On Wednesday, we had the PDP, the SDP yesterday. Today, we have the Young Progressives Party and its presidential candidate here in our studios. I'm sure it's something you don't want to miss. We'll take a break. When we come back, of course, we have all of that. So stay with us.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Brought us as usual.
As usual.
For the three.
You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah.
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have.
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is. Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me. I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria. To set the tone for the first part of our conversation this morning on the Young Progressive Party and what it has to offer Nigerians, let's take this background report that has been put together by correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
As the 2019 general elections draw nearer, it presents another time for campaigns, manifestos, and the unveiling of policy statements by politicians seeking political positions. On the forefront are presidential aspirants who believe they have all it takes to lead the country. They are therefore busy campaigning through their respective parties to gain the attention of the electorate. One of these parties is the Young Progressive Party, YPP. The YPP is one of the newest and youngest political parties whose drive is to shift focus from the old generation politicians to the younger and vibrant ones. The party says it is bringing in new ideas into the political space, which seem to be left out by the so-called major parties. The presidential aspirant of the YPP, who is a former senior UN diplomat and a one-time deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, part of his plans for Nigeria is to end what he called the oil curse, stressing that oil has made Nigerian politicians lazy and as the country relies on it as the sole foreign exchange earner. For him, human capital is the way forward for the country. He hopes to move the country away from ethnic and religious agendas that is a major challenge to national cohesion and development. Now, with these plans and strive to be the #1 citizen of the country, alongside a lot of contenders, which includes the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari of the APC and the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. How far can the YPP go with its candidates? Will the party's manifesto and policy statements resonate and be of interest to Nigerians? These are questions that will be answered by the electorate in the coming months.
All right, Oyeyemi Ajayi, thank you very much for that background. But just before the electorate will have the opportunity of casting their vote next year, we already have with us in the studios the YPP presidential candidate himself to discuss in further detail what his proposals are for Nigeria. Professor Kingsley Moghalu, it's our pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Also here with us in the studios is the National Secretary of the YPP and is serving as the Campaign Director General for the Kingsley Moghalu 2019 presidential bid. He is a lawyer, Vidiano Bamaye. Vidiano Bamaye, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. Well, let's begin this way. I'd like to begin on a personal note,
Sure.
and that's to the presidential candidate of the YPP.
Yes.
Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Why do you want to be Nigeria's president? Some people say you are more of a technocrat. Some say that you have no political experience. But why do you want to be Nigeria's next president?
The reason why I want to be president is because I believe Nigeria is actually a failing state. In almost 60 years of independence, all we seem to have achieved is to have become the poverty capital of the world. If you look at our country today, you'll find a lot of poverty rising, you'll find unemployment rising, you find our population rising, and this is a dangerous cocktail that can only be arrested by competent visionary leadership, which is what I would like to offer Nigeria if Nigerians give me the mandate as president in 2019. The traditional political class has failed. They're recycled, they're old, they have no new ideas, and the people who destroyed our past cannot build our future. So that's why I'm running for president, and the fact that I'm a technocrat is actually an advantage because the time has come for people, who are leaders with the technocratic competence to solve Nigeria's problems, whether it's power, whether it's nation building, whether it's the economy, whether it's international relations and diplomacy. I have been well prepared all round as a leader. You must not be a traditional Nigerian politician to make a good president, because the track record has shown us that the traditional politicians have failed us.
What proposals are you putting forward to fix Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I mean, my vision for Nigeria stands on a tripod. First of all, nation building. I want to heal Nigeria and build a nation as president. And I want, after having served as president of this country, to be remembered as the president who really built Nigeria into a nation. Right now, Nigeria is a country. It's not a nation. And I say it's a nation waiting to be born. Secondly, I have very, very far-reaching proposals to fix Nigeria's economy. We are going to move away from dependence on oil in my presidency to an innovation economy. We are going to move into industrialization. We are going to move into innovative and technology-driven agriculture. And thirdly, I'm going to restore Nigeria's standing in the Committee of Nations. I spent 17 years in the United Nations as a United Nations official, rising from entry level to the highest career ranks. I have been a deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria for 5 years, and I led far-reaching reforms. I personally led the introduction of the bank verification number, BVN, as deputy governor for operations at the Central Bank. As deputy governor for financial stability, I led the reform of the financial and banking sector. I led the stabilization of Nigeria's banks after the global financial crisis. No bank failed, no depositor lost a kobo. This was, of course, very different from what happened in the failed bank crisis of the 1990s. So my track record speaks for itself, and all I ask for is the mandate of Nigerians to repeat that performance on a much larger scale.
All right, Kingsley, thank you very much. Let's bring in now the Director General of your campaign, Vidiano Bemaye. You're the Director General of his campaign. How is the message and messaging being received by the electorate with regard to what is just articulated, and indeed if there are other points?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you know, Nigerians are very tired, sick and tired of the kind of leadership that we have in Nigeria today. The old politicians have failed us. They have been recycled over and over, and they have outlived their usefulness for Nigerians. Nigerians want a true positive change, and we are offering them a paradigm shift in the leadership of Nigeria, bringing people who have never been seen in the political scene before, but who have the capacity to lead Nigeria to where it ought to be. And that is why Professor Kingsley Moghalu emerged as the presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party. And we believe that he is the man that will take Nigeria to where it ought to be and, remove Nigeria from the kind of leadership that has not seen us anywhere. If you keep repeating the same thing over and over, you don't expect to get anything new. So you have to move from the old paradigm to a new paradigm of politicians or leaders. We are raising a new breed of leaders that do not have any greed, that have no form of corruption or anything whatsoever that will stain the kind of leadership that we want for Nigeria. So Professor Kingsley Moghalu is the new breed politician or new breed leader that we are raising in Nigeria to ignite a youth revolution of new breed leaders that will take Nigeria to where we're headed for.
But then the question Kingsley asks now, what has been the reception of the electorate, especially as you have been going out for campaigns as a DG of this campaign?
The reception is overwhelming. it is exciting. You need to see how people are receiving Professor Kingsley Moghalu in all the places we've been to in about over 30 states of the Federation of Nigeria today. The people are so excited. Everybody wants something new.
Your party is relatively new.
Yes, yes.
Do you think you have the structure?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The party has structure in 36 states of the Federation, including FCT, and we have the people that are out there to take Nigeria to the next level. And the people are willing much more than before, volunteering themselves. You need to see how, you know, at a point in time, as if they will mob him when he moves even in the street, because they love to see this kind of leader who they believe will take Nigeria to where it ought to go.
All right, just before we bring in again Professor Moghalu, let me ask you this question. Yes. Against the background of what you've just said, I'm sure you must have encountered it in the media, whether traditional or social or even everyday conversation. It is often been said that the 2019 election is a two-horse race, which would tend to give the impression that every other person else is an outsider. How does that impact you when you are on the hustings?
Well, I don't believe that the 2019 election is going to be a two-horse race. I see the APC and the PDP as two fingers of one leprous hand. So it is definitely not going to be like that. It is the PDP-APC against Professor Kingsley Moghalu or the YPP. We are the third force that will, you know, take Nigeria to the place that it ought to belong to, because the YPP is coming in with not just new breed leadership, but is coming in with the young people, the young women, young youth generally, believe in the Young Progressive Party. They see it as the party for the young people, as the name implies. So what Nigerians will see in 2019 will be a shocker that they will never understand. And I tell you, the young people and the people of Nigeria generally are ready to bring about that shock and the needed revolution that we ought to have.
Professor Moghalu, what is the potential voltage of that shock on the basis of your slogan, we understand, or the policy document that your party has put out for this campaign, which is BIG, that's Build, Innovation, and Growth.
Yes.
What are the contents?
Yes. Build, Innovate, and Grow, my vision for our country. I am the first and still probably the only presidential candidate in Nigeria today who took time out and wrote a 270-page book about the promise of Nigeria. What my vision for Nigeria is in the area of leadership and governance, in the area of nation building, in the area of economic transformation of this country, in the area of international relations. Therefore, we have our plans. We are not just making promises. We have a plan, and we have a plan to execute the plan. The voltage of the shock that Nigerians will see, by the grace of the power of your PVC, is going to be a high voltage. It is a voltage that is guaranteed to send the old recycled politicians into permanent retirement. We don't want the shock to electrocute them and kill them. We just want them to be retired and make way for new ideas and new ways of doing things that will bring about progress. They have tried. Their best is not good enough. They need to give way so that new vision, new capacity, new capabilities can come into play. If you look at Build, Innovate, and Grow, BIG, which I have made freely available to every Nigerian online, you will see that it is very different from the policy document, the slapdash, hastily assembled policy documents of most of these presidential candidates. And most of them are copying me anyway, because I'm the one who has taken out the time to think, to do the job. And you find a lot of presidential candidates today copying my ideas. I don't want to sue any of them for plagiarism, but I think that should be an indication to Nigerians as to who is prepared for the job.
But then, history has shown so far in Nigeria in the past that, if you don't belong to certain political parties, that it might be a little bit difficult. Some people would say, okay, the APC was relatively new when it came in, but then it was a merger of political parties that had been on ground. Why the YPP? Why that platform? And why is it the right platform for you? Do you think you will be able to get what you want being on the YPP?
Of course, of course. It was a very deliberate choice to join the YPP. I could not join the APC. I could not join the PDP for two reasons. One, my vision will die in their womb. It will be, in fact, it will be aborted because those two parties, they are in a different planet. Now also, they practice political apartheid, which they call zoning. So if you join them, you cannot emerge except you're prepared to play second fiddle to incompetent politicians, which I did not want to. So I chose YPP because of all the parties I identified with the vision of the YPP. The YPP is a party that is focused on service to the people. Its motto is the rule of law and accountability and service. And I find the party determined to enthrone the Nigerian citizen as the focus of governance. That's something that you don't see, anywhere in the political space. So, and let me speak about history. The lessons of history indicate that in 2019 we're in for a big shock. Let me tell you why. You talked about the APC and the PDP. PDP was around for 16 years. APC came together and took them out. There is no law that says that because you've been an old party, you must continue to win elections if you have not performed. APC has failed us.
It is not a law. It is.
No, I'm just saying.
These are parties that have structures over time across the 36 states of they've laid strong foundations. Your party is quite new.
That's fine.
You were just registered lately.
That's fine. We were registered a year ago, but we have the structures across 36 states. We don't have to be Methuselah. The important thing is what is the vision, what is the reception to the vision of the party. That's what matters. Now, let me tell you that if you look around the world today, you will see a lot of upheavals, disruption in Nigerian politics, globally. Nobody believed that Donald Trump would win the presidency in the United States. We all thought we were walking to the coronation of Hillary Clinton. Nobody believed, but people woke up and Trump was president. Nobody believed that a young black man in America could become the president of the United States. At the time, he was running inside the Democratic Party against the political machine of Hillary Clinton. Nobody believed that Emmanuel Macron could become president of France. I hear you smiling. I see you smiling because you're thinking, well, that is abroad. This is Nigeria. Let me answer your mind.
Politics is dynamic to us.
Let me answer. Let me tell you that no global phenomenon will leave Nigeria alone. When the Berlin Wall fell in the late 1980s, we thought it was a matter happening in Eastern Europe, right? So we became a superpower, a unipower world with America. Eventually, they began to influence African countries who were previously working with the Soviet Union and other Eastern European. They said, well, if you don't become a democracy, sorry, no deal. That's how the military dictators across Africa began to fall one by one. The same way that thing that started abroad touched us, the same way that those disruptions happening will come in 2019, because people in Nigeria are sick and tired of poverty. And I joined the presidential race because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So it's time for something new, something different, and something bold.
You talked about nation building as one of your major concerns once you get elected, if you get elected. Now, against the background of our national fault lines, often exploited, what are the ingredients that you are proposing to achieve nation building?
Good. You know, nation building is not an accident. Nation building is willed. Nation building is accomplished by a leader or leaders who have a vision and work consistently towards that vision. I have a vision that rises above the fault lines of Nigeria. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your religion is. I care that you are a Nigerian. We must be united by the political identity of citizenship. That is the answer to the national question, which I will be bringing as president. Now, nation building means a lot of things. You have to understand how to build institutions. As somebody who has been a deputy governor of arguably perhaps the most important institution in this country, the Central Bank of Nigeria, I understand how institutions are built. As somebody who has been a very senior official of the United Nations, I understand how institutions are built. I understand the role of women in nation building. I was the first presidential candidate since 1999 to choose a female running mate for president. So my vice presidential candidate is Umma Getso, a young 37-year-old woman from Kano State. I was the first because I believe in gender equity. I have good plans for how to fight corruption, really fight corruption, not just talking about fighting corruption. And that means you have to bring about transparency. It means that accountability must be impartial. It means that you must address the question of the value system. And that's why, as president, I'm going to introduce the teaching of ethics in schools to young children, because they have to grow up knowing what's right and wrong. On the gender score, I will have 50 positions in the gender cabinet, One man, one woman. One man, one woman. And we will go beyond the numbers to begin a program of education of Nigerian citizens that addresses the root causes of gender bias and gender discrimination. So we have these solutions, and we're putting them out to the people of Nigeria and saying, give us a chance.
What's your solution to us? What's your thoughts on your plans on the issue of security?
Yes, on security, here's the deal on security. I will bring to the security of this country a totally different approach from what we have now.
What's your approach?
That approach is, number one, a much better understanding of what national security means. The leaders of Nigeria today believe that national security is just about Boko Haram. That's a tunnel vision. National security is Boko Haram. It's herdsmen. It is the security of our computer networks. It is the poverty that is rising in this country and is becoming a national security concern. So, once you understand the problem very well, then you have a chance of actually solving the challenge. The next thing is that I will professionalize the leadership of Nigeria's national security agencies. Today, you find that 99% of the leaders of our national security agencies are either from one part of the country or of one religion. What does that tell you? That tells you that the government of today is not particularly interested in securing Nigerians as a country. They're interested in regime protection. And the only people they think that can protect them are their kith and kin, ethnic or religious. The next thing I will do with security is that I will reform border protection. Our borders in this country are porous. People just walk in and out of Nigeria from Niger, from Chad, from Cameroon, from, Benin Republic. So we're going to demarcate our borders properly and manage them in a modern way. And finally, with security, finally, oh, no, well, like Trump. Well, finally, very importantly, is that my government will restore, will build, train, equip a 21st century police force. We will recruit, train, and equip 1.5 million new policemen and women in this country.
Professor Moghalu, thank you very much. Let's bring in again the campaign DG, and that's Bamayi. Bamayi, well, taking up from the issue of security as well as nation building, there are a number of issues that are wrapped around all of this. You just talked about recruiting the new policemen and officers, some 1.5 million. And what we are having on the table at the moment are calls for the decentralization of the police force. There are calls for state police. What is the disposition of the YPP to the calls for state police? Plus, on the issue of nation building, how does the YPP, if it gets into office at the national level, hope to relate with the subnational levels, considering also the calls for restructuring as well as inherently in that devolution of powers?
Thank you very much. The Young Progressives Party believe that the police force, as it is, just like our presidential candidate said, would recruit more. But also, we believe in having various state police in the various states of the Federation, because you cannot say the governor is the chief executive, chief security officer of the state, whereas he does not control the police. He doesn't have a say. The police will have to take order from Abuja to act in a faraway Kebbi State or Port Harcourt, River State, or any other part of the country. We believe in having a state police, and also that is the position of the YPP, to decentralize this police force all over the place. Now, when it comes to nation building, the Young Progressives Party believe in having people, communities deciding what they ought to be, what projects ought to be cited. We don't sit down here somewhere in the nation capital and decide what people in the rural areas ought to, have as projects. But we have a people or community-driven kind of projects where the people will decide what is paramount, what touches them more for that community. And through their representatives, they'll present it to the government, and this government will bring it up to
Rhoda, I'd
yes.
like to touch on the restructuring question.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yes, please. I just wanted to say that, we have all come to an overwhelming understanding in Nigeria today that constitutional restructuring is a very essential thing that must now happen in Nigeria if we are to make progress. I believe, and I believe the YPP also believes, that constitutional restructuring is essential. I recommend that we need to, devolution of powers is not restructuring. I just want to make that point very clear, because a lot of people get confused, and it could be a 419 approach to restructuring. We tinker with one or two things and claim that we have restructured. No, restructuring means restoring Nigeria to a constitutional federation. And I recommend that it should be done on the basis of the 6 geopolitical zones, not of states, because of the economic advantage of doing that. Also, I believe in resource control, that regions should control the resources they have, but they have to pay a tax or a royalty to the center. I propose either 30 or 40%. I believe that the local government areas should not be a constitutional tier of government, because in a proper federation, that is never the case. There's only one example I know of in the world, in the modern world, and that is India. So these are the things. I'm the only presidential candidate who has broken down his vision of restructuring. The why, the what a restructured Nigeria should look like, the how we will do it, and when we will do it. When I become president, within 18 months, Nigeria will be constitutionally restructured by a new constitution adopted by the National Assembly and state assemblies. So we have a blueprint.
Yeah, are you going to adopt a military approach? No. To get the National Assembly and then 24 states of the Federation?
No, we are not. We're a democracy. Yes. But the reason we have not been restructured is because the president of Nigeria today does not want restructuring. Let me tell you. Let me tell you, as president, what you do, you can present an executive bill to the National Assembly, can you not? So the National Assembly will have to amend the Constitution. It's not the president who will. But part of the leadership of the president is to have a vision for Nigeria as to how Nigeria should make progress, and to present that vision to the people of Nigeria and to the National Assembly. That is what I would do.
In brief, what is your proposed fix for the economy?
Oh, two things, or a couple of things. One, we must move Nigeria's economy to innovation-based economy. When we move our economy towards developing human capital as what drives our economy, then we're making progress. So the reliance on oil is just not going to work anymore. I am going to partially privatize the NNPC. 49% to 51% government, private. The host communities, in the oil-producing communities, must own at least 10%. Those shares will be sold on the Nigerian Stock Exchange in a transparent way. We will establish a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that will invest in thousands of new businesses to be created by young men and women who are presently unemployed, and that will create millions of new jobs. We're going to bring innovation into agriculture so that we produce much more yield over small acreage because the technology exists. Innovation is the wealth of nations. Human capital is the wealth of nations. But in Nigeria, we worship the God of small things. Every morning we bow down before the oil price. That's why Nigeria is poor. How can you export crude oil and be importing refined petroleum products? And we've done this for 4 decades. We're just going backwards in time.
All right, now, Professor Moghalu, listen to what Nigerians are saying via tweets before we appreciate you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Julie Jack Solomon tweets, the YPP manifesto is also tailored towards solving our socio-economic problems in the country. A brilliant idea, but the party would have to campaign more to enjoy national patronage rather than localized support base. They have a marketable presidential candidate.
And Festus Akimboiwa tweet, it says, I cannot see any YPP's policy that stands out. While Moghalu's promise of sustainable quality education, full employment, mechanized agriculture and rapid industrial growth are attractive, his promise of removing petroleum subsidy to fund the new minimum wage will be hard to sell.
Ibrahim Modu Aji tweets, Nigeria has always proved to be a two-party state. Unfortunately, the other political parties are on the fringe. Now, how can Nigerians know that YPP is out there really to wrest power come 2019, especially for the presidential election?
And assigning Michael Mokaji tweets, he says, with all due respect to the YPP supporters, aside showcasing beautiful manifestos, where is the structure of the party? Where are their offices across the length and breadth of Nigeria? How are we sure YPP is not one of those parties registered to compromise whoever it is so as to induce them?
Festus Akimboiwa has this last tweet. Say, great that YPP is contributing to proper debate and proper exchange of views that's happening across our political spectrum. But despite the party's clear vision, plans and strategies, I doubt whether those are enough for voters to punch the ballot for them rather than the APC and PDP.
Those are the tweets that we have right now, and of course that ends our discussion on this topic right now. But then the show still continues. Just to also indicate that if you have any thoughts, questions, you can also send via Twitter handle at NTAGMN. It's on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to the presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party, that is Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And also a very big thank you to the Secretary and Campaign DG for that's the National Secretary of the YPP and the Campaign DG for Kingsley Moghalu, his Barrister Vidiano Bamayi. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a short break now, and when we come back, Zuf begins tomorrow. But first, let's take our sports update.
United States Open champion Naomi Osaka.
Nigeria looking much more promising in the second half. Rebel Musa!
Ability does the rest. Look at this. What a finish that is.